section, 1.3.2, this is all about some basic naming of different things. Our first section here is about rays. Rays are defined as having an endpoint and then shooting off. So it's kind of like a ray gun in a sense. You start at your endpoint and you would continue on forever. That's what we're being shown there with that marking of the solid circle shows an endpoint and the arrow means it continues on forever. When you name a ray, you always start with your solid dot or endpoint, okay? So we're going to start with X. So I write X first, and then I move on to Y. It doesn't matter if it's in like actual alphabetical order. What matters is whatever your endpoint is. After that, I draw a ray symbol above it, which is literally just a line with an arrow. And that's how you write an array. You start at the endpoint, you write the two letters next to each other, and you put a line with an arrow on top. So if I do number 2 here, I see that R is my endpoint. It has that dot there, and it goes to S, and I put my ray symbol above. Done with that. The next is to write our lines, okay? So lines can be written 2 different ways. So when you're doing these questions in Apex or whatever, it might want you to have all of the possible names of a line. Well, the first thing I could do is reading it kind of right to left. So C to D, right? And then when I do lines, I make sure to put my line symbol above it, which is literally a line with 2 arrows, because lines go on forever in both directions. A line segment would have 2 ends. So we'll talk about segments at other points. But because it can go either way, I could go left to right or right to left. I don't know which way. The arrows point both directions, right? Above it. I could also have this be DC, again with that line above it. So when it asks you about naming lines, you should have at least 2 different names. So here I could go EF. Again, for notation's sake, make sure you are putting that symbol above it right now. If you saw an answer in Apex that was just EF, you might be tempted to press it, but if it does not have the line above it, it's wrong. So it's just, this is notation stuff, it's going to be picky in the Apex about it. But because it is a line segment, it can also go the other way, where F is first and then E, because the direction is either direction. Okay? The next one is all about naming angles. Angles can be, each one of these angles has 3 different options. What you should start with any option for your angles is the angle symbol, which is literally just a little angle. It should be out in front while we're talking about angles. The first option is to use all 3 letters going this way. So from Y to X to Z. So I would have this symbol, that's my angle symbol, Y, X, Z. X here is my vertex, okay? So this is my vertex. It should always be in the middle. My second option is to go the other direction, where I start at Z. So this would be Z, X, Y. But you can see that the X is still in the middle because it's between the 2. So X should always be in the middle. So angles can be written kind of going either direction. The other option for angles is to name it by its vertex. So I could also just call this angle X. And that would be my 3 options here. Okay, if you have any questions, please ask. Once again, it's sometimes nice to identify that vertex right away. When I identify that vertex as A, I know it should be in the middle. So I could do CAB. Again, make sure that angle sign is in front of it right now in any answer choices. So I could have CAB, angle CAB, or I could start with my B here and move the other direction. So that would be B, AC, or back. Both are correct. There's no direction of an angle. The vertex just has to be in the middle. And my last option would be just to call this angle A. So again, you're probably going to get a lot of questions that have like multiple answers. Just be careful, pay attention. Make sure you would click on all three. So common types of angles. We have a 0 angle, which would be a point. A straight angle, so that would be 180 degrees. A right angle, which is exactly 90. An acute, which is less than 90. And obtuse, which is bigger. I like to think about acute as like it's small, it's little, so it's less than 90. Obtuse is annoying and obtuse, and it's just too big. So you can use those if you need them. And this question just asks us to identify. Number 7 here has this box. You need to get used to that box. Anytime you see that box, that's representation of 90 degrees. You will be seeing it throughout this course. So anytime you see that, you should be thinking it's 90 degrees. 90 degrees would be a right triangle. Okay? And number 8 here, it's opened up. It looks to be far bigger than our 90 degrees. It's not giving us a number, but if we think about 90 would be about here, this is bigger. So we could probably guess this is around like 110 or something, which means this would be an obtuse triangle. If something was acute, it might look something more like this. It's a very sharp little angle. The next thing that it talks about is supplementary, which equals 180, or S for straight. These are the ones we're most likely to mess up. And complementary. Complementary are 90 degrees, or they're C for corner. Okay? So what do we have here? Well, supplementary are two angles that make a straight line, which guess what we have? This would be an example of supplementary. So if you see two angles that make a straight line that's supplementary, you could also call it a linear pair is another vocab word that might come into play here. Here, you see the box, right? Remember, we've always got to pay attention to that box. That means 90 degrees. It's a 90 degree being split into this side and this side, but that is two angles that make a corner or are complementary. So those are our complementary and supplementary angles. If you have any questions, let me know.